Hey, good morning. It is 5:21 a.m. It is November 28th. I think it's November 28th. Let me make sure. I don't want to make a fool of myself. Let me see here. It is November 29th. It's Saturday. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And the reason why, I'm thrown off is because, well, number one, it's the morning, and also every day is pretty much the same for me. But it's, I just woke up about, I don't know, 20 minutes ago, and I went downstairs, and my son was up, so we talked for a little bit, and I came back upstairs, and I can hear, like, the roosters, the cock-a-doodle doing, and it's just, it's just a kind of a weird feeling this morning. But anyway, the first message I'm getting this morning is whatever I want, I get. So there's a lot of people in this community, I talked about who participated in the human trafficking and the gang stalking. Now, you know that what happened was unwarranted, it was unjustified, and completely unfair. And I do know that a lot of these women are suffering the consequences for what they've done. And, unfortunately, it's been 12 I'm going to start, I'm going to say at least 10. Why 10 instead of 12? Well, I left Murray Family Farms 12 years ago in January. And it's, in 2013 in January. And since that time, it has been constant, nonstop harassment. No matter how much I had, presented information on how and why these people were doing what they were doing was wrong. I had covered everything that these people were involved in my videos. I talked about stalking. I talked about the violations of work laws. I talked about human trafficking. I talked about gang stalking. I talked about the psychological effects and how it's damaging to the targets, i.e. me, right? How it financially devastates people, how it destroys family, how it destroys every aspect of your life. I talked about why it's wrong to use religion as an excuse for this sort of behavior. And I also mentioned that this was not in any way biblical, other than the fact that the only discussions about gang stalking specifically in the Bible is they don't use that word, but everybody seemed to have targeted Jesus, right? Okay. So that's one example. So if we were going to talk about it in terms of biblical terms, so I would say that the evil people were the people who participated in it. So if you're going to look at it as a bunch of do's and don'ts when it comes to so-called being a Christian, that would definitely be considered a sin. Okay. So anyway, moving right along, it has been I'm going to say 10 years because I've been making this channel for 10 years and it's been the same stuff. Okay, it started off with me, just thinking it was a workplace issue. Then I came to find out, get suspicious that maybe, the kids of 533 were in it. Then I realized that it was kids from high school. And then I just realized how big it was, just recently when I had mentioned the church's involvement, which I've talked about this in my newsletter. So the message that's coming through my mind right now is I am an angelic creature. And the reason why I self-govern is because, I've always been in alignment with the divine. I've seen, and obviously, if you're somebody who is in connection with the divine, then you will understand the whole idea of cause and effect. When people put things out in the universe or they do something, then there's always a consequence to it. There's always a consequence to what people do. And you understand this, and I understand this very well. This is one of the reasons why it makes me nervous when people initiate plans, okay? Because they may not be as far-sighted as me. I'm very far-sighted. So when I start getting nervous and fidgety about something, after somebody discusses something to me, my brain has already inner worked what the possible outcomes are going to be, and I get very upset. And for these unique reasons and skills, possibly throughout my life, this is one of the reasons why people are now starting to look at me as somebody who might be good in the political arena because of my strategies. Okay, my strategies in understanding how the web of society works. This is how. Excuse me, my voice is a little raspy because I just woke up, okay? But anyway, but also, I do know that there's a lot of people who don't want me talking about this issue. How do you get me to stop talking about the issue? You let me move on with my life. It is as simple as that. It is just move on with my life. That's what I want to do. Okay, and see, the problem with it is that what these people have developed is a compulsion. Okay, they have developed an addiction to harassing me. Okay, there are some people, because I will tell you, it's more than just a joke or let's just kind of goof off with, or play games with Maria, because everybody knows that anybody who would attempt to do this, especially at this point of me, losing my vehicle, people messing with my credit, the rumor campaigns and all this stuff, it is not something to laugh at. So that once again, when these women have to deal with the consequences of their actions, the intuitive message I've been getting is that all notations have been removed from my account data banks, and I should feel safe. I'm very grateful for that. Also, it's important for people to acknowledge the fact that, this is something that this sort of cleansing within the workplace is something that is going to help bring about the New World Order. Okay? And the reason why I'm saying this is because now people are going to have to be held accountable. Okay? You know what is right and you know what is wrong at this point. You know what is right and you know what is wrong. Now, whether we have good law enforcement in this community, which we don't, okay, we don't, okay, but at some point things are going to have to switch and turn, because there is no denying that this community is very corrupt, okay. And so, what I'm talking about and why I address this whole tribe is because these are our leaders, okay? These are our leaders, and these leaders are obviously ones who are, people who are involved with decision making, law, passing laws. We are to be upholding these laws, and because these people have witnessed what has gone on in this community, okay, so we have to make switches. This community has to make changes, okay, because it can get worse. The intuitive message I'm getting right now, I don't see how it could get worse, but you know how it is. That's the message that's coming to my mind. But anyway, the message I'm coming up right now is many employees are going to be losing their jobs at the Valley Strong Credit Union, and that things are going to be shifting out for the highest good. So, people can't feel safe in this community. And it's wrong to continue to be at this level of ignorance. It can't continue. It can't continue. And at this point, there should not be any ignorance on this subject. There should not be any ignorance on this subject, because this whole thing has played out in front of everybody. Everybody saw this from start to finish. Okay, before I even knew that I was, this Alamehu person, which morphed into Briganza, which I got to tell you, that right there is cool. That right there is very cool, okay? So the other message that's coming to my mind is that, yes, the heavenly gift is real and beautiful, and it's for everyone, and everyone should live good, meaning live good, live in a constructive way. Live in a way where you are honoring yourself. The reason why you do the things that you do is because you don't honor yourself. You don't honor yourself, but you think by honoring yourself is to disrespect another person. That is not it. If you disrespect other people, or in the manner that continue to happen in what we just witnessed, that means you focus on other people instead of yourself. You're like these, I would say Selena, Bruce, Marilyn Ducci, Alita Collins. Those are the first three women that pop into my mind who live here in this community or lived in this community. They were obsessed with me. They were obsessed with me. Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. Coveting can get out of control. Envy can get out of control. Coveting is basically envy and jealousy. And then you start, coming up with plans, and you actually go so far to put the wheels in motion to do things, to another person. See? So when it comes to data banks and stuff that are associated with certain companies, companies have, the right to build customer profiles, and those profiles that are in their data banks or in their computer files or whatever are supposed to have pertinent information. Okay, but those anything that's going to be, listed that's meant to to harass somebody. Okay, you're basically identifying yourself as a human trafficker. Okay, and it's important that people feel comfortable in these places of business. It's important that businesses uphold a positive image. Okay, because if it gets out that a company, uh, you know, gossips about other people or spreads information that is supposed to be considered sensitive. Sensitive information is something that is meant to be private, such as your bank information, your social security number, okay? That's going to make people lose credibility. That's what makes people lose customers, okay? Like I said, if I was a person who was not a victim, I wasn't a victim of gang stalking, but I had watched all of this unfold, okay? I understand the kind of crimes that are involved when it comes to victims of gang stalking. And I find out like a particular bank or store, uses their customer information and they strategize things or they target this particular person. And if I was somebody who fit those profiles, or I would not want to support those companies. You know why? Because I know that these people would misuse my information because they don't care. Somebody who would participate in human trafficking is very cruel and somebody who is pathologically sick. They are. Why? Because they enjoy watching these people suffer. They enjoy, creating these sort of psychological traumatizing issues such as their stalking behavior. They like shocking people and they get a charge out of it. Okay, now what kind of entity enjoys that sort of stuff? That would be something demonic. That's demonic. Okay, so these people got to the point where they coveted so much that they actually just gave themselves over to the dark side, to where they are so morally corrupt that they couldn't stop it. They can't stop it. This is why I'm saying, this is why now you're seeing the end result of their foolishness, okay, and of their inability to truly feel good about themselves. So anyway, that's my main message this morning. This is the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that, we need to, I am going to do what I need to do, okay? But as you can see, there's going to be consequences to people's actions. There's going to be consequences to people's actions. There's too many people who are witnessing this. Like I said, I just came to realize, okay, put it all together, Maria. And this is the reason why people are talking is because the United States is observing what's going on in this community. They're observing what's going on in this community, okay? And I remember before I first moved here, many years ago. This is like, when I started thinking about it. And I remember white people, okay? White people that I knew from like the Antelope Valley area would tell me, that, kind of warn me, like, this is really somewhere you don't need to go, like I was telling you. But I'm like, well, the rent is cheap. And, I didn't have very many options. And I don't want to make waves in this community. But I will tell you, the way that you continue to behave is to your own detriment. I mean, I look at you people, and it's not a positive direction. I feel as though, if you guys are truly seeking some sort of balance or happiness, which I think everybody wants that, right? That's just not the way to go. Okay, it just isn't. And so, I get disturbed when I see this sort of stuff happening in companies because it's not something that should be dismissed like, oh, that's not a big deal, okay? Organized crime is a very big deal, okay? Because what you're witnessing is a form of genocide. Just like the days, back in Stasi's, when people orchestrating these little setups, where they're, pinning certain people, targeting people, Not only Jews were targeted, but they had other people to want to fall in line or whatever, and it's sick and it's very twisted. It's very twisted. Because when I think about the inner working of how this particular, I wouldn't say industry, but this particular, the masterminds of like the cloning system, as well as how these people claim to be Christians, but they obviously let themselves go into the dark side because they became obsessive with greatness. You know what I mean? They became obsessed with, you know, being the best, okay? And so even, I would say, white people who supported Nazis or the Nazi ideals did not benefit positively from this. This attack on me, for example, Alita, you know, she used a lot of people to accomplish her goal. Even other people of different races. Okay, this is what I'm saying is where it gets sloppy, it gets messy, to where you can tell that the masterminds behind this, you know, demonic plan didn't even care about the people who claim to support them. You see what I'm saying? That they even turned on their own kind. This is what I'm saying, how sick and warped this is. This is the reason why I point out the fact that, you know, my brother-in-laws who were from very racist backgrounds were able to sit here and marry Tanya and Lisa, who used to be known as my siblings, right? And then that's one thing for them to be the little racist snots that they were, but then they interbred with these people. Okay, so then they produce offspring. So what do you, they everything about this thing was very corrupt and can obviously be traced back to mind control. And now we see the people suffering for it. Now all the people, now the demons, I may remember making a poem one time. It was called "When the Demons Leave You." When the demons leave you, okay? Because a lot of times people get filled with it. It starts with, you know, not minding your own business, okay? And you start looking and you start longing and, you know, you start, you know, picking and nitpicking at a person, and it develops into something even more corrupt. You know, it becomes a compulsion. It becomes a sickness, a madness, you know, and then you basically become a fiend, you know, and then you might do something and step out of line, such as what these women did over at Valley Strong Credit Union, right? And other people like that have created these sort of harassment issues, okay? And then when they get caught, and this is what I talk about when the demons leave you, because now they're not all puffed up with pride. Now they're not feeling justified and feeling proud or feeling themselves with, the reason why they felt justified is because it's not because they really had a reason to do that, other than they have to face the facts that yes, they were in the wrong. Yes, they were envious. Yes, they were failures by behaving and allowing themselves to sink that low. And then that's when the demons leave them, where they have to sit here and think about what they just did. You know what I mean? And then they lose their peace of mind, and then they look around and they figure, oh my gosh, I'm losing everything. And was it really worth it? No, it wasn't. Okay, and see, this is what I'm talking about. Workplace harassment. People need to adhere to these sort of laws. These people really need to make some sort of changes. The message I'm getting right now is that my soul tribe is witnessing this, and they are shocked, and has provided a lot of healing to them too as well. You know what I mean? So this to me is very shocking, because it's like, you know, I had to suffer my entire lives, okay, because of wicked people. And see, this is where the biblical tie-in is, okay? Because I am a righteous person, and I've always been a righteous person. And this is the conflict between me and mankind. Mankind claims, just like the Bible talks about, mankind claims to be Christian. They claim to love what's righteous, but no, they do not. They are wicked. And so for the people who truly care about themselves, okay, a person who loves himself, they care about their eternal soul. You best to believe they do. Some of these wicked people who ended up dying, they have repented, okay? But it's too late, because they can't matter on the earthly plane anymore. It doesn't matter on the earthly plane, because deep down, when this does go down in history, okay, they're going to go down as the bad guys. They're going to go down as the bad guys. And this is what they will be remembered for. This is what they'll be spoken about. This is how people are going to remember them, as wicked people. Just like everybody's always, no one thinks about Judas, the times when Judas was good. They're going to be thinking about Judas when he was bad, what he did, how shocking it was, how Judas could sit here and play in Jesus' face every single day with his stupid nonsense, acting as if he was a supporter of Jesus. But in fact, he was ready to kill Jesus any chance he got. And see, I was thinking how Rashawn would be the proverbial Jesus. I look at Rashawn as, no, not Jesus, the Judas. Okay, I'm sorry. I look at Rashawn as Judas. Okay, and then and Judas type characteristics, like Judas, they're the kind of people like uh, like the girl at the credit union. Okay, Judas is the kind of people like Selena Bruce. You know, they want to play in your face. If they'll pretend to be your friend, they'll hang out with you. You know what I mean? I'm saying gang stalking is nothing new. This has been going on since biblical times. I kid you not. I kid you not. Okay, so this freak stuff goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And so there comes a point, okay, where it was predicted that I was supposed to find out all of this and heal people and take them home to heaven. So the game's over. You know what I mean? The game is over. The message I'm getting is that yes, the heavenly gift is real. It is beautiful for everyone. Live good eternally, and that's the message. That is the message. The message is live good, live right, you know, and you can avoid catastrophe on the earthly plane. And that is the goal. The goal on the earthly plane is to avoid hell. That is exactly what it is, okay? I will tell you that if you look back in your very rigid upbringing as, I don't know, whatever religious denomination you belong to, okay? And I'm not saying churches have to close, okay? But they need to fix some things. They need to fix some things. And I am forcing these people to look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing, okay? This is a man-made structure, and it shows, okay? And for many years, people have been indoctrinated with nonsense. Okay, and the cloning thing is a perfect example of it. Okay, the kingdom spouse thing is another good example of it. Okay, the church has created and brought chaos into the homes of many people. Many people. Okay, and I'm not talking about what the divine did. I'm talking about what man did. Some people being convinced that to take over people's lives, to suggest things, but not just suggest things, to enforce things when they don't really have the right to do that. And a lot of people, such as, you know, the Gordon family, my father, and Mary Gordon and James Gordon, their union was a nightmare. Was a nightmare, okay? And then bringing in things like Bird and Baby, they have destroyed society. Okay, the Christian, the Christian ideology has destroyed mankind from inside and out. You know, like I think about people like Jim and Jeff, my so-called brothers, what brother-in-laws that I used to look at one time. Okay, I look at them and how could you do it? How could you do it? Like, how is it that you could be so, like, you know, like a white supremacist and then create offspring and then let these people and confuse your offspring? I don't get it. Like, you're that big of a puppet? Are you that much of a puppet? Are you that mindless that you don't even know what you believe? The message I'm coming to my mind right now is that people are relentlessly harassing these women because they are considered to be inferior. And these women a lot of these women, nobody cares about these women. Nobody cares about these women, okay? Because I think deep down inside, most people know what I'm talking about. They know what I'm talking about. And see, this is what self-hatred leads to. People who hate themselves. They hate themselves, and they are not good to be around. They're not good to be around. You know, they will sit here and drag you down. They always drag you down. They dragged a lot of people in this community down. Okay, and my brother didn't like himself. This is the reason why he was, you know, basically someone who bent over backwards to appease these Palladian kids. to the point of where we are now. And like I said, Rashawn was the kind of person that would sit back and watch people suffer and take the blame. And he was the kind of person. Look how far and long this went on. That is so deep and corrupt. Rashawn was definitely Judas in this picture, And then of course, I've always made the contrast between Judas and Peter. You know what I mean? And I think there is a difference. I think there is a difference between Judas. I think Judas was a deliberate backstabber, where Peter was just a weak person. That's how I look at it. But anyway, and I'm not being a Bible thumper, but I'm basically telling you the theme and how this is interwoven and then how this is all relates to bloodlines. And that's what I'm talking about. And so now that all of this is unwound, and I have obviously come to the conclusion that I was born to bring this about. This is the reason why, well, I've always, throughout all my lives, have taken an interest in spirituality, and no one ever had to tell me that. No one had to tell me that. It was just like, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. And I wasn't somebody who was overly preachy about it. It was just some sort of inner working, some sort of inner guide that made it so that I operated correctly. Yeah, like I operated correctly. Like, I understood things like discipline and that's not to say that I didn't make mistakes, because I did make a lot of mistakes when I was younger. But once I realized the impact and the end result of my mistakes, then I immediately changed it or abandoned it, or just like, okay, well, that's wrong, so let me just move on. You know what I mean? So no, I mean, I'm somebody who has become that way. And apparently I've always been that way. And because of that, I've been, it's been highly problematic, because apparently this sort of righteousness is what makes me shine. The intuitive message I'm getting right now is I am a successful writer known for the Blessings Quarterly newsletter. I'm glad, okay, because I also got the intuitive message that some of these people were trying to take credit for my work, just like they did at Murray Family Farms. And there is nothing funny about that. There is nothing funny about a person who works hard, okay, who has, tried to find some way of making their lives better financially after dealing with the kind of struggles that I dealt with in the workplace. These same monsters that were causing me problems in the workplace were trying to create problems for me in, outside of that. Because my work, my projects have nothing to do with work at all. Also, the message I'm getting right now is something about the Sabbath day, and I keep thinking it was some of these Sabbath observers who were behind my targeting, which I know that Selena Bruce was someone who observed the Sabbath, and, and that's fine. Like I said, people can do that if they choose to do that. But this is, once again, somebody who is trying to enforce their religious views, okay, on me. I'm not obligated to observe any of your aspects of your religion. And see, they are shocked because I'm an angel, and they don't understand why I don't adhere to man-made, rituals. And I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with observing the Sabbath. And I had also mentioned that there is a special feeling and benefit of setting aside time into getting in connection with the divine. So if for people who want to do that, that's fine. But there are some people throughout the Christian denominations who have debated whether the Sabbath is still something to observe or not. Okay, and there's some people who still observe the Sabbath, and there's some who don't. Some people look at the Sabbath as supposed to be observed on Saturday. Some people believe it's supposed to be observed on Sunday. And like I said, some people believe that the Sabbath is now irrelevant. Okay, so I will tell you that we're dealing with different denominations, okay? And I do believe that Selena Bruce was involved in it, and possibly other people who were, there was Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, all involved in it. There was all people involved. And this is why I'm calling it bullshit, because it's a cult, okay? So yes, I understand these things because I studied cults, okay? And I observed the fact that when Tanya, I would say, was a part of my research, because even though she went to church and stuff, I looked at them as a cult, a cult within a Christian group. Why? Because we had a Nazi and Tanya in this little relationship, and these people were highly, okay, brainwashed. And I remember she would coax me to go to these meetings, right? I cannot, okay. And these people were like, it was creepy. I will tell you, it was creepy. Only thing I can tell you, it was creepy. It's like they would, like, circle around you and sing, and then the way that they were looking, and they were like trying to make eye contact with you. And you're thinking, I'm like, I swear to God that this must be some sort of mind control technique. And this is what I was thinking when I was there. And I was like, man, these people are really something. And I remember making jokes and references about it when I was a teenager. I was like, man, I remember going to my sister. I was freaked out about it. I was pretty freaked out about it because I knew that these people were fueled on some sort of mission that were leading them to some sort of being misguided, some way of being misguided. Okay. And I also remember things that my sister Tanya would tell me about this particular flock, this particular church that she was going to, that that to me should have sent off red flags to my sister. But my sister was just like, she would just casually mention it and get prepared for the next meeting of church that she was supposed to go to. What freaked me out was back in the 80s was when she told me that the members of her church, they stole the money from the congregation and they went to England. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, Tanya, you better stop going to that church. But no, she went up. I was like, oh. Okay, but anyway, yes, the message I'm getting is that yes, the Bible covers many of my incarnations, and yes, Jesus is included. So yes, I am somebody who I recognize. Okay, whether the church was to sit here and acknowledge my as Jesus or not, which I do believe that they do. Okay, but they would never say it to my face. But yes, I am. Okay, the message I'm getting is that I freed the soul tribe and they are now enjoying life. And I am so very happy to hear that. I'm very happy to hear that. Like, you guys are making choices for yourself. Maybe sometimes some of you guys for the first time in your lives. I think that's so beautiful. Really, I do. I think that's really beautiful. So that's really cool. I'm happy about that. I mean, at least there's something good about that, because God knows it's been a nightmare, and we might have to take extra measures within the United States and in other countries if these people get that unruly. We need to really crack down on what's going on in our communities, what's surrounding us. There are vigilantes. I know I had mentioned to my soul tribe, about cleaning up their data banks, making sure that they could stand on your own 2 feet. Some of you guys are going to have to develop or learn more about money and how to manage money and how you guys can, establish things for yourself, because you guys can't. You cannot live like this, okay? You can't. And these people have abused you. They've abused you, okay? And I'm so very happy that you guys are free, especially a lot of you guys, because some of you guys are just like, you guys mean a lot to me, especially people like, Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr and, even Justin Hayward. You did piss me off, though. You did, but, I'm over it, though. I'm over it, okay? It's just that you guys were a part of my life, and the message I'm getting right now is celebrate. I won the battle. People are losing their jobs, and they will continue to do so until you guys help and assist in finding people in these better positions. And I would say these people would be people like targeted individuals, people who have been ran out of the workplace because somebody's been jealous, because whatever. So, we need to rebuild. Unfortunately. There's just a lot of corruption, and definitely starting off with our law enforcement, okay? Because the laws are great, but no one's enforcing it. They're just not. And so a lot of people are talking about me and Vladimir Putin. I think I'm like totally excited to meet this guy. Okay. But anyway, yes, as far as our spending, what these people were trying to do, I think, is like we're basically to try to treat us like slaves. Is basically what it was. And it's shameful, okay, because everybody talks about slavery and they'll sit there. Some of these people, this is where the brainwashing is. Some of these people, I remember them talking about the shame and the sin of slavery, right? But yet they are themselves, committing a form of slavery. Even when it comes down to my mother, you know what I mean, a black woman who would be willing to allow her daughter to go through something like this. Yes, okay. So I'm just saying that people say one thing, but they mean another, especially when it comes down to their self comfort and how they feel as though they'll do anything to fit in. And yes, they are that crooked. Okay, so the message I'm getting right now is that these women these bully women are terrorized 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, infinity. Like I said, they're losing their jobs, their violence is increasing in their homes, they're losing their mates, a lot of them are losing their reputation, and yes, they are exposed as evil. And so you guys do have the right to spend for yourself. Like I said, some of you guys need to learn about money. And don't be ashamed to start from the very basic. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with, starting from like maybe information that you might think is for children. But if you really have not handled money yourself, you're going to have to learn how to do that. And it's okay. It's okay. I'm happy for you guys. I really am. I'm very happy for you guys. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video, and I'm going to go ahead and, just kind of chill out for the rest of the night, for the day, and I'll probably get dressed later and, see what's up. So take care. Bye-bye.